Kia ora, this is Chris with Earth Sciences New Zealand. We have a lot going on, school holidays, atmospheric rivers. It is the 19th of September, recording this on Friday, 19th of September. Let's get to it. Let's start off with school holidays, and then we'll get into the atmospheric river. Some really active weather coming our way. Look, Saturday is going to be the best day across, for the weekend anyway, for the North Island. So you can see we start off dry for much of the country, maybe a few showers in Fiordland, but generally dry, and that will be the theme right through the entire day. So you can see as I play this through, it remains dry for the North Island. You can later in the day, probably near sunsets, west of the South Island, we start to see showers, certainly wind, more on that in a minute, and that starts to really increase Saturday night and Sunday. So travel plans, maybe you're going to the national parks, Fiordland National Park, rain, elevation, snow. You're probably going to have to be above 1,500 meters to see any appreciable amount of snow. This is a northwest airflow. Let's look at the airflow, and boy, is it going to be windy Saturday night across much of the South Island. Even Wellington will get a bit of a wind Saturday night, but it's really the South Island. You can see plenty of red on the map just zooming in here. Those are 100K wind gusts over higher terrain. You can actually see some of the, I'll use my telestrator here, you can see some of these valleys, the mountains and the valleys created from the orography of the land kind of funneling through. So there will be gusty wind, and that'll keep temperatures elevated much of Saturday night. Now, what about Sunday across the country? Well, Sunday looking to go downhill. So outdoor plans for school holidays, Saturday looking good, and even for much of the South Island looking good on Saturday. But Sunday, let's have a look. There we go. Saturday, generally dry for the North Island. Rain increasing western and lower South Island Saturday night. And as promised, here we are on Sunday morning, 6 o'clock. Could see a few spotty showers across the lower North Island, maybe about Taranaki, about the Munga. But notice over the South Island, rain will fall heavily. And some of this rain will fall as snow, but it's going to be, again, high up above 1,500 meters. And, boy, that wind is going to be cranking. Look at this. We can see wind gust easily above 100K, where you see the red here across the high country of Canterbury and the west coast of the South Island. So just zooming in a little bit, you can see, wind gusts. I mean, some of these wind gusts are pretty incredible. Forecast to be 130, 140, 150K. But look, this is over higher terrain, just zooming in to give you a sense. So here's Darfield, right? So this is inland of Darfield over the higher terrain. But certainly for folks who are going to be traveling or live about the Canterbury High Country, there could be damaging wind gusts on late Saturday night into early on Sunday morning. And a brisk wind for Wellington, too, coming from the north. What about the rain on Sunday? Let's play this through. The North Island, mainly dry for the Waikato, for the Auckland region. You can see we're dry pretty much the entire day. I do think showers will fall in Taranaki as well as the Central Plateau. The lower North Island, about Wellington and maybe the Wairarapa, particularly over to Kapiti Coast and the Wellington area, going to see showers increasing late Sunday afternoon into Sunday night, into Monday. But I do want to focus your attention here across the upper portion of the South Island. This is where we're going to have to watch for some heavy rainfall. We'll get heavy rainfall Sunday across this region, but it's into next week where we could see some substantially heavy rain, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But as we play this through, that rain band continues to move north. Now, the question is, getting into the weeds a little bit, you see this guy right here? This is high pressure, where I'm pointing to. And how that behaves, does it hold strong? Does it shift a little bit farther east? Because that could block this rain band. Notice the rain band moving east, and if the high pressure is holding strong, that rain band is not going to move as fast as it would otherwise. So those are things we'll have to watch for. Bottom line, if you have travel plans on Sunday across the South Island, be prepared for heavy rain over the western South Island. Be prepared for very strong wind across much of the South Island. In fact, our ensemble modeling showing the odds for heavy, or shall I say strong winds, let's get to it. The odds for, say, wind gusts exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. Here is Saturday, And zooming into the South Island a little bit here, here is Sunday. Look at that. Widespread, moderate, which is the orange, to red, which is high, probability of wind gusts exceeding 100 Ks, particularly, once again, about the Canterbury High Country, the higher elevations of Otago. We'll see some really strong wind gusts. And jumping ahead into Monday, those odds do decrease. We don't see that widespread red, but we do see some, at least medium chances for wind gusts to exceed 100 K, especially early on Monday morning. So a very dynamic system coming up. So what about the rest of school holidays? I mentioned earlier at Atmospheric River. So let's go back to the modeling here. What I want to do to illustrate this is I'll use dew point temperature. Again, dew point temperature, to be technical, it is the temperature at which dew forms, but it is also an excellent proxy for moisture. So the red and the yellows, the warm coloring, those are higher dew point temperatures. And higher dew point temperatures, so a dew point temperature of 20 Celsius, that indicates a lot of moisture is in the atmosphere. And this is a good way to understand airflow. You can see that yellow and the orange and the red, well, maybe not really red up to the far north, but certainly yellow and orange. That is the atmospheric river. Another way of looking at it is through relative humidity. You can see this thin band of high relative humidity across, coming from the, the Coral Sea. Let's get rid of that. The Coral Sea into the top of the South Island. This is an area we're going to have to watch the top of the South Island, because this will be an area where the atmospheric river, depending on how it behaves, is it progressive? Is it transitory, or does it kind of stall, or is it slow moving? Those are things that will really determine where the heaviest rain falls Sunday, and especially after Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So let's go back to our ensemble modeling. I think this really tells a story. Here we go, rainfall. So I'm going to show you the odds for, first of all, 50 millimeters of rain. So backing up here Sunday, pretty good odds, medium odds for at least 50 millimeters or more, so more than 50 millimeters, I should say. Areas in the orange, so Tasman district, about the Tasman ranges especially. But look at on Monday, we see high odds for exceeding 50 millimeters. What if we up the ante to 100 millimeters? What does that look like? Yes, still looking at moderate or medium probability across the ranges, about Buller, inland of Westport. But you can see here across the northwest corner of the South Island, north and west of Motueka, this is where we have a high probability of exceeding 100 millimeters of rain on Monday. And as we jump ahead to Tuesday, that probability certainly decreases, but we still have some chances for that. So we're going to have to watch the top of the South Island Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for the risk of heavy rainfall. In fact, here is one way of looking at it. What I'm going to show you is, again, our ensemble modeling. And the beautiful thing with ensemble modeling is that as we look at these 18 different outcomes, is that we can look at 18 different outcomes, right? I'm going to disappear here, go full frame on you. So these are 18 scenarios, and the beauty is that we're not beholden to simply one outcome. What do I mean by simply one outcome? This is one outcome, right? We're saying the rain is coming back on screen, bear with me here. We're saying the rain is going to fall, and I'll just speak in broad terms. The rain is going to fall Sunday afternoon at around 3:20 in the afternoon in this area. This is one outcome. In reality, we can look at a range of outcomes disappearing once again. And that allows us to better understand the probability of certain occurrences, certain amount of rainfall. So as I bring this into motion, and you can see just where these 18 outcomes are putting the heaviest rain. So, for example, this outcome that I'm pointing to, you can see plenty of color. So you can see the pink and the purple. That is indicating, using our color bar, amounts of 2 or 3 or 400 millimeters. This is by 3 o'clock in the morning Wednesday. But notice this outcome doesn't have the pink or the purple, does it? Nor does this. A little bit of pink and purple. This does. This does. This does. This does. This does. This does. You can see that does. Not so much that one. Not really that one. That does. That does. So you get the idea. It gives us a sense of what outcomes are favored. So coming back on screen, what does this all mean for the South Island? So let me zoom into this area. Again, you can get a better perspective on the range of outcomes, right? But when we take those outcomes, we can say, right, what is the probability of getting, or what are the odds of getting a certain amount? Can you give us some scenarios, basically? And yes, we can. So what you're looking at here are rainfall scenarios. And these rainfall scenarios, I'm going to get nerdy on you, but I think we'll be okay. So notice I'm going to disappear. We have on screen the 10th percentile, the 50th, and the 90th. Think of it this way, okay, as I bring this forward. On the left, the 10th percentile, this is a low-end outcome. On the right, the 90th percentile right here that I'm pointing to, this is a high-end outcome. In other words, if things got pretty nasty, what could that look like? What might that look like? If things turn out to be on the low end, then what does that look like? Now, in the middle, that is the middle of the road. Now, if you want to get real nerdy, what does the 10th percentile mean? It basically means there's a 10% chance that what is being shown here will not be exceeded, right? There's a 10% chance. So in other words, there's a really good chance we're going to get more than what's shown. On the other end of the spectrum, the 90th percentile, what is that saying? Well, there's a 90% chance the amounts that are being shown here, they're actually going to be less than that. 90% chance that these amounts won't be exceeded. And in the middle here, 50 percentile, that says, well, there's a 50-50 chance they could be more than that or less than that. Coming back on screen. So again, what's beautiful about this is we can kind of get, I guess, I don't want to call it a best case scenario, but a better case scenario on the left, and on the far right, kind of a worst case scenario, and what might that look like in middle of the road. And you can see, boy, there is, there's a little bit of a dot there. Do you see that? That's over 400 millimeters of rain. That is a high-end scenario. It's very unlikely. It's possible, but it's not probable. On the low end, something that is very likely to occur, we're assured, I don't want to say assured, there's a high chance, a really high chance. Look, the only thing that's assured in life, as we know, death and taxes, right? There's a really high chance that there will be at least 100 millimeters across the Tasman Ranges. This is by 3 a.m. Wednesday. So if I play this through, you can see here we are, mind the clock, which is right here. This is 9 o'clock in the morning Saturday. And if we jump ahead to midday on Sunday, then we jump ahead to midday on Monday. Yeah. So there's uncertainty, but we'll have to watch for the potential of some pretty heavy rain across the top of the South Island starting on Sunday. It may ease on Monday and then come back Monday night into Tuesday. Here's another way of looking at that. This is actually a really cool animation. It's one of my favorites. This is an atmospheric river. Keep in mind, an atmospheric river is simply a river in the sky that brings a lot of water vapor from the north, the tropics, down into the lower, or beg your pardon, the higher latitudes. And as I bring this back into motion, you can see how there is plainly a connection. I mean, it's plain as day. You can see how this rain band extends all the way back into the subtropics and the tropics. And there is the rainfall that is forecast to grow with time. Now that rain band, we'll see what happens, but that rain band may move north for a time, Monday, but we'll see what happens if it does kind of move back south, because there's all this rain up here that needs to come south. So all this rain may actually reshift or realign itself to move back over the top of the South Island. There's an area of low pressure right here. You can see there's a trough. That trough is forecast to move to the east. That'll help to transport more of that moisture down from the north. So I guess it's a long way of saying, even though there may be a lull or a break or an end of the rain late Sunday night into Monday morning for the top of the South Island, that rain may come back. In fact, it's more likely than not it does return sometime Monday into Tuesday, and that could be the really heavy stuff we'll have to watch out for. Either way, Monday morning for the lower North Island, places like Wellington, the western North Island, places like Taranaki, you're going to see rain. So I think Monday looks to be a wet day for the school holiday makers across much of the lower North Island. And with that rain, some gusty wind. So expect gusty wind as well on Monday across much of the central and lower North Island. Beyond that, it looks like basically the weather for the first week of school holidays is unsettled. I mean, you can see that rain band. Whether that's over the upper South Island or the North Island, we'll see. But it's likely to be an unsettled and wet first few days of school holidays, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of school holidays. As I look at my watch, once again, 19th of September on Friday, we are recording this. And just to get a sense of what may be coming for week 2 of school holidays, I think we're in better shape. So here's our rainfall forecast. You can see for the 23rd to the 29th of September, school holidays, basically week 1. It's wet across much of the country. Where are some areas during the first week of school holidays that are actually maybe pretty good? It's going to be the eastern part of both islands. Because of that northwest wind, that's a firn wind, that's a dry wind. So places like Napier, Hawke's Bay, Hastings, maybe Tadawfiti, Gisborne, coastal Wairarapa, over toward eastern Canterbury, maybe eastern parts of Otago and the northern part of Otago. You're likely to see not as much rainfall, not nearly as much rainfall as areas in the darker green where all that heavy rain is going to fall. Now, week 2 of school holidays is actually looking the best. For the North Island, you can see there's a reduction of rainfall below normal rainfall forecast. And for the eastern South Island, unfortunately, the western South Island still may see wet and unsettled weather for that second week of school holidays. Before we go, it is going to be warm with that northwest wind. Have a look at this. We're going to see temperatures pretty darn warm, he said, for the day look at that, on Sunday. Northwest winds, we're going to see temperatures in the lower 20s. In fact, maybe even warmer. Just a few days ago, earlier in the week, Rickerton, our climate station in Rickerton, I think hit 26.1 with a strong firn wind. So I would not be surprised to see temperatures on Sunday easily in the lower 20s for eastern Canterbury and not quite as warm for the eastern part of the North Island. And just sticking with that temperature theme, cleaning that up, you can see here's Monday, pretty warm temperatures across much of the eastern North Island. We could see temperatures in Hawke's Bay on Tuesday easily in the low, maybe middle 20s. So Monday and Tuesday, look, if you're looking for a place to go for school holidays, head to Hawke's Bay Monday and Tuesday. I'm sure they'll love the business. Temperatures will be in the lower 20s. It'll be warm certainly for early spring. It does look like it turns cooler middle part of the week. So check MetService for any watches and warnings. There's going to be a lot of rain and active weather later this weekend and for probably much of the first week of school holidays across much of the country with wind and heavy rain. Got to watch the top of the South Island for active weather and very heavy rainfall. If that heavy rain, as I showed you, if that materializes, particularly the higher end scenarios, then flooding will be a real concern. And what the heck, I'll show you the North Island. This is a 5-day total. So by the way, this is what I was showing you here. That's a 5-day total. These are 5-day totals. Here you can see different color bars. So mine, it's a bit of a different color bar. Pink means 50 millimeters. I'll disappear real quick. You can see low end scenario. Well, not much rain. Less than 25, less than 15 millimeters for much of the upper North Island. Middle of the road scenario, we're looking at 10 to 30 millimeters of rainfall. Higher amounts about the ranges. That's the pink and the purple. And a high-end scenario, again, unlikely, possible, but not really that probable. You can see many areas in the pink and even the purple, and that would be 50 to 75 millimeters as total rainfall. Right, so that is it for me. Staying top of the forecast. We'll see how we go with this heavy rain late this weekend into next week. I'm NIWA. I said NIWA. I did it. I'm Earth Sciences meteorologist Chris Brandolino. You have a great weekend.